Yo,
This
this is crazy. New levels, new levels. The whole crew's on that new level.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Praçazul. Our guests today are two candidates running in the Brockton election. They're here to share their experience and everything that they've done in the community, and just to prove to you guys that they are ready for the elections and why you guys should definitely vote for them. Let me introduce them. Ellie Teixeira and Cynthia Rivas Mendes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
I'm going to start basically with you, Ellie. We've known each other for a while, and I know that you're perfect for this. But why are you running for city councilor? That's one of the most important ones.
So I'm running for city council to bridge the gap between community and government. I just want to make sure that Ward 5 is heard at the table when decisions are being made. I want to make sure that our people's voice is there, that we have true representation. We can't be a minority city and not have people on the council that represents us. Sometimes even if you have people from the community, but you need different backgrounds, right?
Definitely.
You need social workers, you need teachers, you need lawyers, you need people from different backgrounds that can bring different things into the table at the voice, so that way when they're making a decision, like I'm going to make a decision based on my background, me being a social worker and what I have seen in my community, right? And the next person, if they're an attorney, they're going to make it from a legal point of view, right, that I don't have. And that's a good space to have, right? But when you have everybody the same, when you have everybody just working on one direction and not seeing different lens, it makes it hard to run the city.
When did you feel you had that courage to be, okay, I'm really gonna start running as a candidate for city council?
So I would say before COVID, when Jimmy Pereira was running for mayor, I got involved in his campaign and kind of got a little bit interested in politics. And I was just, so after his first race, I was like, you know what, let me look really into this. So I started looking into the council. At that time too, we got a new council in Ward 5. And so that person wasn't as reachable as the former council that we had when I first moved to the east side. And so I started noticing the difference between A and B, right? And started like attending the meetings and started learning more about city government and how it runs. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna run, you know? Then COVID happened, you know, and I was just like, let me learn more, because at that point I still needed to learn more.
Okay.
So then Tina ran for mayor, and I got really involved in her campaign, right? So I was like, the next one, I'm gonna run. Then the next one, I had a baby. And, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm not ready for this. Like, I can't focus on a baby in the city at the same time. But then during that time, I worked a campaign, like actually worked, like staffed the campaign, because the other ones I was just volunteering. But this one, I was actually an employee of the campaign. It was the Rason Hall DA race. And so that's a bigger race. That's the whole Plymouth County. So that's 27 towns and city in the Plymouth County. And I learned so much from that campaign, right? I learned about Brockton politics, but also the politics around us, right? And how they influence Brockton and the connections that we have. I also learned about the connection that people here in Brockton have, you know, like the family connections and like the names that you hear a lot, right? So I started paying attention to, like, you hear Sullivan a lot, you hear Cruz a lot, you know, you hear Tory a lot, you know, and I was like putting those pieces together to see like who's connected to who, not only here in the city, but then also around us, right? I also discovered that like I love politics. I love it. I love it. And part of it is because like my parents and my family members are all involved in politics. Like my cousin who passed away, Fernandinho, was the mayor in Forgu, you know? So like I guess it's in the blood, you know, and like my dad, anybody that knows my dad knows how much he loves politics. I feel that I have a good knowledge of my community, you know? And when I say my community, I mean Brockton as a whole, you know? I moved to Brockton at a time where Brockton was like the place to be, the safe suburbs outside of Boston City, you know? This was in the 90s, you know? And then seeing it now, it's completely different, right? And so like I have seen the growth and the development of Brockton, but I have also seen the downfall of it. You know,
Okay.
and I just feel like right now in my life, I'm just in a good position to like step out and say, okay, like let me do the work.
You just said something that actually is one of my questions, so I'm going to go into it right now. So, I've been in, you know, as you know, I was born and raised in Europe. I came to Brockton 10 years ago. And, well, I'm lying. I came to Brockton in 2004. I did an internship here for a year, and then I came back in 2012. Now, Brockton has a bad rep as far as people saying that it's safe, or people, like, I don't understand it because I feel pretty safe in Brockton. But a lot of people will say, and I don't know exactly what the statistics are, you guys probably know it. How safe is Brockton right now? Is that something that people should definitely be worried about? Or is it just because they have a bad rep because of the things that happened when the downfall came?
I think it's your definition of safety, right? Because like you say, I feel safe. You know, some people think that I'm crazy that I leave my door unlocked, you know, when I'm home, or that I leave my door open when I'm home. You know, we grew up in Brockton, like I said, since we moved here. My parents, till this day, from the time they get up until the time they go to bed, their door is unlocked, you know, open. Like, and at first, you know, we used to live on Forest Ave, busy street. You know, I grew up on Forest Ave, busy street, right? Our door was always open. We have never been robbed. Nothing bad has ever happened to me in Brockton. So I feel safe in Brockton. But I guess it depends what your definition of safety is. I mean, I do notice, like, especially when I was doing the DA race, how, like, when I was in some of these other towns, like Marshville, Pembroke, I didn't feel safe. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I did not feel safe. And it's a safe community, but I didn't feel safe. I felt out of place. I felt like spotlights was on me. You know? And oftentimes the police would be following us.
But that's what I say. Like, a lot of my, you know, cousins or whoever I speak to, and they're like, "Oh, Brockton." I'm like, dude, I used to DJ here for a while. I used to be in all the bars, like the dive-in bars even. There was never really like a huge issue. Like they act like every other week there's a shootout or anything like that. And I'm like, guys, I never feel unsafe in Brockton. So, you know, I just wanted to know if that's just a bad rep that it has, or that it really statistically is really like something that people need to worry about.
I think it's important to know who's giving the news and why are they giving the news.
Exactly.
And a lot of times if you think about the news, it's usually targeting people of color. Brockton is one of your highest statistically where it's really diverse, right? So it's thinking, why are they targeting Brockton and why does it have the exposure? I always question that. When we're on a budget deficit right now, 14.4 million. We were in TV for a good month where it was like, people were contacting me, contacting other people like, hey, are you okay? Because of the exposure that we continuously got. There was false rumors about embezzlement, about the FBI coming, you know. So you have to think who's giving the news and what's the motive and why. And why are they targeting? And I always question that when, you know, something's going up, especially on government, about the deficit and the exposure that we continuously get, because that also brings down our reputation, right? As a city, that people think, oh, what you're saying, Brockton isn't safe. Oh, Brockton's terrible. And it takes away the value and the credit of our people.
True.
Right, because nobody talks about the good things that come from Brockton, right? And sometimes the negative takes so much room, like she was saying, that we don't spot like ourselves the good stuff that comes out of Brockton. There's some amazing stuff that comes out of Brockton. Amazing program, amazing kids that graduate from Brockton High and go to like Ivy League colleges and stuff. We produce great people in Brockton. And there's people that come back to Brockton, you know, that are just doing amazing things. I mean, we have Newbie who went through the Brockton school system, works in the city, left, you know.
He's great, by the way. I know.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
You know, and he's a Emmy-winning producer, right? And where is he? Right back here in Brockton, you know. But we don't hear enough about those stories, and we don't celebrate enough of those stories. It's always focused on the bad things that happen in Brockton.
Do you have a strategy of like for your campaign to make, especially your community, the civic people, participating in elections and campaigns?
So what we've been doing, or what this campaign has been all about, hitting the doors, right? So we've been door knocking in the rain, in the cold, At night, we just been out there just meeting people where they are, right? We're going to neighborhoods and places that our opponents are not going into, you know. We're having real conversations with people at the door and just meeting them where they are.
What is the problem with people not voting? Like, we always talk about this, like whenever I speak to people that are in politics, they always say, hey, everybody comes out to vote for the president. But when it comes to like your city or your community, it's actually people like you, or you know, people like you, Cynthia, who make a difference, who can make a direct impact into their environment. But they never really show up. Even when I was like doing some research about you guys, I saw like horrible ratings when it came to people stepping out to vote. Like, so I have two questions for you. Number one, why is it always an issue for people voting for city councilors or for basically the mayor's office or the mayor's-elects? And number two, how powerful is the Cape Verdean vote? Like, if all the Cape Verdeans would step out and vote, like, how big would that be?
Huge. So I think one of the problem is people are not educated, and that is a big piece that I feel that is missing. We hear about election now because we're in the middle of the election, right?
Yeah.
But then day to day, nobody talks about it, and I feel like campaign starts. So election is November 7th. The campaign starts again November 8th, right? And at that point, we should be talking to people over and over and educating them about voting. Voter suppression is real. You know, that's an actual thing. And at the end of the day, they are winning by us not voting. So every time somebody says, my vote doesn't matter, it doesn't make a difference, you're giving powers to the people that are suppressing you from voting.
Exactly.
You know, and when, you know, we saw big numbers of people go out for the presidential voting, right? But the president doesn't care, doesn't know Brockton. So you're voting for him, it doesn't matter. Like, oftentimes I see people saying, you know, I donated to whatever campaign of whatever president is running. He doesn't need that money. But then they won't donate to little or us that we really need the money to get this campaign going.
She mentioned two important people. She said, I got into politics because I was able to help Jimmy Pereira. I got into politics because I was able to help Tina Cardoso. Those people may no longer be in politics, but those people paved the road for many of us to be there. And that's what Ellie and I continue and want to continue to do, right? So when we have these events, you ask, what are strategies that she has done in her campaign? One huge strategy that she did that I admire was she uplifted a business that just recently opened on the east side, which is the Taste
of Brazil Bakery.
It's not just amazing, but the way she uplifted it, there was real Cape Verdean music, where you know the Cape Verdean culture is amazing at music, right? They loved that. She was able to expose their food and just uplifting those communities where we, you know, usually when you think about campaign events, you think about more of the white establishments. So those are strategies where now she's uplifting businesses, but also people are like, hey, what's going on there, right? There was that curiosity. So it's education, but it's also how are we uplifting one another? I think culturally, we're not great on being unified, right? We think, oh, if that person has this, they're good on their own. I think this generation, we're changing that narrative, right? That idea of enviness or like, especially, right? Yeah. But we have to really, like, if you see people that are able to move forward, a lot of those cultures, a lot of those people are unified. Because it's like, this may be our story now, our narrative now, but it may be you tomorrow. So a huge part of something that she mentioned, campaign funds, your campaign will not be successful if it's not funded. And I'll be completely transparent.
So
my husband and I have had to donate $2,000 from our own money for me to be in my campaign. Because I have people that say, oh yeah, I'll donate. And then they decide not to. Granted, it's their money and I respect that. But then you see other people and you look on the campaign website, like fund, and some people have $500,000 in their campaign. So you're just like, how do they get that? What connections do they have? And how can I get that without selling my soul?
But that's
you know what I'm saying? Without having to owe anybody.
That's a good point.
What has been an eye-opener for me is that you can't depend from the people that have economic empowerment. The people that will matter the most are your inner circles, are the civilians like us. $25, $50, $100, that adds up very quickly. So like, the problem is when you think about people with economic empowerment, they probably think I've been there. Unless you have like a relationship, like shout out to the Vega family. They have funded my campaigns. They give me an easy $500 check. They just opened up Brockton Cafe. Nice. They're also Cape Verdean. They're my family. They're my husband. The one that just opened right on Main Street.
That looks awesome.
It's beautiful. They did a great job. And when she talked about the enterprise wasn't there for their grand opening. Oh, wow. And it's such an uplifting place where if you hear the owner, he basically said, whatever I get from Brockton, I continue to invest in Brockton. That was deep. That's so deep. That's but granted to say, I know gave to me because at the end of the day, my husband is their nephew and their godson. Oh. So there's that, right? So I can't expect other people with economic empowerment, if I don't have relationships with them, to give me that. That can't be an expectation. I think the expectation needs to come from our people. Okay. It needs to be like, okay, you can buy, where are our priorities? I think our priorities are very much, our cultures are all about very much, we got to look good, we got to drive the nice car, and that's completely fine. But we also need to prioritize in investing in our community. We could do more.
But also just volunteering, right? Holding signs, door knocking with us, just telling a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. That goes a long way. To me, that sometimes is more than the money, right? Because signs, we can get a whole bunch of signs. We can get money for signs, but signs don't vote. People, you need people to go out and vote. You need people to go door knocking with you because, like, Ward 5 has over 9,000 registered voters. There's no way that we will hit every single door, right? Okay. But if we have a group of people, let's say of 20 people each time going with us and spreading out, then we can get close to that.
Can cover that up.
You know? So that's what we need. But we still need money. Don't get me wrong.
I have one more question about the voting. Which demographic votes like the least? Is it like the younger generation? Is it mid? Is it the older generation? Like, is there a pattern somewhere that you guys say, hey, this group is not voting at all? And how can we get them?
Statistically, I don't know, but I can tell you, door knocking, usually the 18-year-olds to 23, 25, 100%. And I'll be honest, when I was that age, I thought the same thing because I didn't understand how local politics have a direct impact to you. I used to go out and I was like, I'm gonna vote for Obama, right? Because Obama's the man. But what impact did Obama have on me directly, right? So again, it's that lack of education.
Yes, it
so
is.
I would say that age group, because maybe of lack of education or because they don't see the value, but again, I don't know the statistics, but I could, from our door knocking and just hearing that generation talk, it seems as they're not going out to vote.
You, for instance, being in the school committee, why is this not something that we can teach in schools already to prepare kids for when they get to a point that we could be like, hey,
I do believe that too.
How accessible are you? But for instance, like, we don't even know that. Like, can I knock on your door when you're elected? Let me just say when you're elected. Can I just knock on your door? Can I just call a line and get you on the line? Where do I go to if I have a question? Like, how do I vote? When do I vote? Like, these are all things that I feel that you can already, these kids know how to shoot a jump shot. Because they learn it in school. So how can we not focus on that?
So civic engagement was a huge part, right? I know my husband's a lifelong Brocktonian. I am not. But he was telling me that he did a program that it was with the mayor. I forget the name of the program. I can get it to you.
It's the Summer Youth Reward Program.
Oh, thank you, Ellie. So it was the Summer Youth Reward Program. He was like, Cynthia, I remember, Moses was a huge part of that. Moses Rodriguez, because he was the first Cape Verdean that was elected here in Brockton. So like programs like that, why don't we longer have them, right? Because those are really important. Very good, social studies, a huge part of that branch was civic engagement, right? Unfortunately, little by little, that has been less prioritized because think about MCAS. What's priority there? It's math and ELA. So when you think about that, and that's tied to funds, it's like, oh, well, we can't prioritize science as much. We can't prioritize social studies. And it's so frustrating because if you think about the careers that have money, right?
Those are the
usually
ones that
those if you think about it, right? So that's definitely a frustration that I have. So I think we need to advocate for those things to come back. There are nonprofits, like I know we have collaborated with Discovering Justice, which is awesome. Like the kids get to go to the Brockton courthouse, they get to go to the courthouse in Boston. But again, that's a nonprofit. So if we keep collaborating with them, great. But we should have that locally.
I just had my 10-year-old in the car, right?
Yeah.
And I was asking him, just because I knew I was going to interview today, I was like, I'm interviewing someone in school committee. I was like, what did you do today in school? And he told me, Dad, I did what we always do. I said, what do you mean always?
Yes. That's
He said,
answer.
ILA, I guess reading,
Yep.
yeah, that.
ELA's English language
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So in English, basically. Arts and crafts, lunch. He had to say lunch because the snack was ridiculous good. Then he got into math and science. And I was like, okay.
Sometimes they
so
have
because
gyms.
I have this thing that I do with my kids at home. I always tell them, hey, what's the capital of this? What's the capital of that? What's the capital of that? So I called my people back home. I was like, wait a minute, listen guys. When we were 10 years old, like we were learning about geography. We were learning about history. And I just asked my kid and he's like, we don't get history. We don't get geography. I'm like, so what determines, like, how do you guys determine what these kids are going to learn in school? Because if you're right, like
and
taxes.
You're bringing up a great point. You're bringing out global citizenship. America, unfortunately, the United States of America, we maybe 20 years ago, we were number one in education, but we're no longer up there, right? So many other countries are moving up that because we think that we just stay to whatever has worked or, personally, I think the system, it's systemic racism, personally. I 100% believe that. So it's like we're not teaching our kids not just to be local citizens, but to be global citizens. When you travel, right? Like I remember there was an obsession when I went to college on study abroad. Oh, you have to study abroad. Europeans do that. Gap year is a thing. They go to other countries all the time.
Yeah.
Great. It's definitely easy access, but we should be doing that with states.
Yep.
Just because we live in Massachusetts is a commonwealth. Massachusetts is not the same as Mississippi. It's not the same as Alabama. It's not the same as California. It's not the same as Wyoming. It's so different. So why aren't we exposing our kids to different states, different accents,
Yeah, that's
different
really a good idea.
systems,
Sure.
government, different like Republican swing states, Democratic states. Those are important conversations that personally I did not learn in school. So if you don't know the different states here, what's the expectation of learning other countries? So when we think about global citizenship, that should definitely be in the curriculum, right? Like private schools, they're always like, oh yeah, you guys should study abroad, go to France, go to this. Like, okay, granted, we may not have the funds, but there used to be funds that we would get that people would be able to go in the summertime or, so that has to be like, how do we bring that back?
Yeah, you're in the school committee, right? And I'm a parent. Do we have any power?
100%.
Like
you have
to
all the
do
power.
anything? Because
You have
is our power only choosing the member of the school committee and then hoping that they do it, or
you are my employer? You are my employer.
Okay.
You hire me. When you elect me, you hold me accountable to make sure I'm getting the work done. And that has been an eye opener since this deficit, right? All of a sudden, not that people weren't doing it, because I don't want to talk out of maybe some, but the percentage has increased where people are looking at the school committee meetings. You have people in those seats, with all due respect, that shouldn't be in those seats. You could just hear them and what they say, or their lack of knowledge, or their gaps. So it's like, hold on, you've been in the school committee for X amount of years and you didn't know that?
Wow.
Sometimes I look at my colleagues and I'm like, hold up, you didn't know that? I mean, maybe year 4, I get it. Like I'm still in a learning curve. But if you've been here for 10 plus years, I'm sorry, you should be teaching me.
Exactly.
You're a veteran. I'm looking up to you for you to, help us be able to make informed and well decisions.
Sure.
But yes, parents and families, you guys are the biggest advocate. And that's the problem with our community, right? We don't internalize that power.
But where's the access? That's what I mean. Like, how do I
go to the school committee meetings? They're all recorded. Public hearing. Every school committee meeting has a public hearing. Granted, you can only speak for 3 minutes, but you start there.
That's a lot.
You have the emails, website. You can email the acting superintendent. You can email any school committee members. Some people have done that.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't get your voice heard. Go to the principals.
That's good.
Go to the assistant superintendent, deputy. All those people are your tax dollars that are paying them.
Awesome.
And that's the same thing for city council. Like, we work for you guys.
You can definitely just walk up or contact you
the city,
and say, hey,
the mayor.
yeah.
If you can set up a meeting with the mayor to talk to
With the superintendent,
Like, sometimes
100%.
people, and I think that's the part that people don't understand, the power that they have, right?
Yeah.
And again, if you don't know, you don't know. And so they bet on you not knowing, because certain people know these things. Certain people will come out and tell you, like, you work for me. I'm paying your salary, so you're going to give me this time of day. And then other people, and I think coming from whatever country you come from and how government is down there, you might think like, oh no, I can't question the government. You know, I can't go and demand this and that. But the good thing about Massachusetts in Brockton is that we work for you guys. You know, once we're elected, our number is public. Our addresses is public. We are public employees.
Another good source is PAC. Do you know PAC? Parent Advisory Council. I don't know if you have access to that, but that's huge. Every school has a PAC. You could be chair of that. You could be the one leading that, making sure that there's events happening. I admire one of my schools in Boston Public Schools. I work in Boston Public Schools as a new teacher developer. I'm an educator. In one of my schools, they were doing trunk and treat on a Saturday for the community. That's admiring. That's what PAC does here. Like, you look at different schools, the Mary Baker School, I look at their Facebook. You know, the Davis School. You look at the South Middle School, they did a gala.
Baker,
So there you go. And like, so point is, as a family member, as a parent, you have the opportunity to be in the PAC, and the PAC usually meets with administration to understand their goals and talk about their attitude.
Shout out to the Baker family though, because they are amazing East Siders that have done so much for Brockton. I mean, Mary, everybody knows her, but I don't think a lot of people realize that her
Denise,
children
her daughter,
are still in the community, still doing stuff in the community.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them. It's a great school, by the way.
What is like a special way to introduce a kid to be successful in life? Is there a program that is available at school, or like a class or course that they take?
So I think when you think about internal motivation, right? I think that starts at home. Education starts at home, and we don't really talk about that. So what supports are they having at home? How are parents, families building their kids? Like he just mentioned, he spoke to his 10-year-old. What did he do in school?
Yes, that's
he's holding his 10-year-old accountable to let him know what exactly happened, right? Through that conversation, if there's any bullying happening, if he continuously asks that, it's going to come out, right? So when you think about internal motivation, in schools, we call it productive struggle, right? So in order to have productive struggle, we need to have safe learning environments. If you don't feel safe, if you don't feel like you belong, you can't be your true authentic self.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
So then what happens is, if we're not providing that safe environment, if we're not even welcoming families in, that kids are like, oh, well, if my family's not welcome, am I welcomed here? Or do I just need to go to school to check a box, right? When you change that narrative, like, no. School is part of your community. School is what's going to allow you to understand civic engagement, to be part of this, to give back to your community, right? And that being able to echo it at home too, I think you internalize motivation. I hear the mayor all the time, Bob Sullivan, we're the city of champions. You know, I graduated Brockton High School, 1990 something. He graduated. You know, like, granted, I'm no hate on him. Like, he is proud to be of Brockton. We need that identity again. We need to be able, like, no, I am Brockton, and I am part of the city of champions. But because you have so many different pockets of people coming here. You have the gentrification that's happening, where people from Boston can no longer afford Boston coming to Brockton. How are they internalizing the identity where they're no longer in the big city, they're more in Brockton, right? Brockton's more like a suburb of Boston. I just had a conversation with somebody, with all due respect. She just came from Cape Verde probably 5 years ago. No hate towards her. But when she said, oh, Brockton, and she was talking Brockton low, I was like, excuse me, like, why do you talk like that about Brockton? Like, most of your people are here.
Everybody
and
does.
You just came from Cape Verde. And with all due respect, I'm pretty sure Brockton has allowed you to have some economic empowerment.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that you're able to give back to your family in Cape Verde. So when people talk like that about Brockton, we need to cut that narrative.
Everybody does
We need
that.
to cut it out, because if we continue to put our city down, guess what happens? Your kid at home is hearing that. And what do? They internalize, oh, Brockton sucks.
You should be proud of
But
it,
if you're out here like Bob Sullivan saying, oh, Brockton, city of champions, then you know you internalize that. Brockton is the city of champions.
Exactly. How do you teach your teachers to be patient and to actually identify, you know, oh, that kid is actually smart, but he's having problems at home? How can I be patient with him and get the best out of him? Because a lot of teachers that I had in the past were basically, hey, go to the principal's office. Oh, I'm putting you in the back. I don't care about you. Even though that student, like, you're a grown, like as a teacher, you're a grown up. Like you're doing that to a kid. Like that kid, you don't even know if that kid has so much potential in him. How do you teach that to your teachers?
So I think working through your biases. I had a similar experience 7th and 8th grade. I was always sent to the principal's office by my history teacher in 8th grade. And it was like, clearly you have a bias against me, or I did something that you automatically are pinpointing me and sending me to the principal's office, right? So I think working through biases, also like really talking about what high expectations look like. Because a lot of times, because of biases or because what the media is saying about our brown and black kids, that, oh, they can't do this, they struggle with this. We also have a lot of English language learners. We have economically disadvantaged kids. We have kids that are kids of color, right? So what are their thoughts behind that? And then back to the internalizing the Brockton pride. Are our teachers living in Brockton? Right. And those that aren't, what ideas do they have of Brockton that they come with certain expectations to be able to give to the students? So I think, a lot of what you're talking about, you can't teach somebody to have patience, but you can teach somebody how to have clear and high expectations. True. You can't teach somebody to have patience, but you can teach somebody, okay, how can you provide a safe learning environment? And I think with data, with knowing the child, also knowing the child and knowing the families, like when you build relationships with people, that's when you're able to really understand them as a human. Like you guys said, we're humans at the end of the day, right? And teaching is the job of community, and it's customer service at the end of the day. Okay. So when you think about customer service, how are you treating the students in front of you, and how are you doing the extra mile to get to know them for who they are?
What I noticed when I came to America is that there is a huge disconnect in family. Maybe it's my environment, but I know so many brothers and sisters who don't talk to each other, so many kids who don't talk to their parents. Like, I've never really seen so many examples back home. Do you guys see that? Is that something that you guys can identify with, and do you guys know the reason for it as well?
So, having worked with families for a long time, like past life, I was a DCF social worker. And so a lot of things that we saw was family dispute, family trauma, family dysfunction. And a lot of times was because that nuclear family that we once had, mom, dad, children, dog, white picket fence, doesn't exist for a lot of us, right? And sometimes even when you have both parents in the household, one of them is working a lot and not there, or sometimes both of them are not there. Yeah. And so the focus is providing for the family, providing for the kids, and people not having dinners together. Parents in our home, so therefore kids are babysitting each other, siblings are babysitting each other. The older siblings sometimes end up being the parent, which can sometimes cause that rift between siblings, because it's like, you're not my mom, why are you telling me what to do, right? Yes. And sometimes parents, because of their situation, has to depend on that child to be the parent, right? So that can cause the rift. But then we have absent parents, we have mental health, we have substance abuse. There's so much going on that it's hard to narrow exactly what exactly is causing it, right? But there is a huge disconnect within our families. And I think sometimes I have had families that got DCF involved and said that was a blessing, because now it's like DCF is putting the structure into that family home that they didn't have it, like we're putting we call it family assessment plan, right? And so we're saying, like, in this quarter you have to do X, Y, and Z in order for you to have us out of your home or to have the kid return back to your kid, right? So we're setting those structures. We're hoping that they're learning from it and will continue to develop. And some families are like, yep, that was great, we needed that, thank you. And some families are like, nope, this does not work for us. It doesn't meet our standards and our needs.
No, even though you're saying that you can't pinpoint anything, I think you really hit it on the money there, because structure, that's something that always worked for me. Like in my family, now that I'm a father of 3 as well, you know, structure really works. Repetition, you know, you don't have to do everything the same, you know, everything the same, but there's got to be a few things that you definitely bring back.
We all need structure.
It feels like the homeless people has tripled in the last 6 months. Like I live downtown, like right next to City Hall.
Right.
And it's out of control. Do we know what is happening there? Is it something that happened that, I don't know, did somebody not do their job? Does it feel like the cops are not even trying to get him out of there? They're just sitting there right in front of the, you know, right in front of the apartment buildings, and what's happening? Is that something that happened, or?
So when it comes to housing, the whole United States is in a housing crisis right now, right? That's just across the board. It's not just Brockton.
Yeah, I heard Los Angeles is ridiculous. Like,
it's everywhere.
It's ridiculous.
LA's crazy, Philly's crazy, Chicago's crazy. We're a city.
And
We're
I
not
used
a
to
town.
work at Boston Medical Center, and
so you saw what happened.
I don't even want to talk about that one. Yeah.
So we have this housing crisis. Part of it is because COVID happened, you know, like nobody was expecting COVID to happen. And during that time, a lot of people, their job was affected, which if your job gets affected, your housing gets affected, and so on and so on. And so that's where some of the homelessness started, right? Then we have a huge migration going on right now in Massachusetts right now, because Massachusetts is a shelter at will state. And what that means is we will take anybody in, regardless of their immigration status, regardless of anything, we will take them and we'll house them. What happens to that is now we have no room. Shelters are full. We don't have vouchers to give out. We don't have apartments to give out. Affordable housing is no longer affordable
that's
housing.
a problem, right?
Especially when you're talking about affordable housing being 30% of your income. Nobody is able to afford that, right? So that's where the homeless problem started. As far as the people under the bridge by where you live, that is not just homeless. You're talking about mental health. You're talking about substance abuse. You're talking about people that do not live in Brockton, that are coming here for treatment because we're the closest place to Boston for methadone and substance abuse treatment, right? So they come from these other towns and they are bused here to get treatment, but there's no bus to take them back. There's no plan to take them back. So they stay here, right? What are they supposed to do?
Because it's about to get cold.
You go under the bridge.
Engage with other ones.
They've been very, to be very honest, they haven't been really violent towards anybody, from what I've seen.
So there's two
but
different
it's about
sets.
to get very cool.
So there's two different sets. We have our homeless community that some of us that are in the community know them, right? Like earlier, I was saying like if Freddie, I don't know if you guys know Freddie, but Freddie has been a long time Brockton resident, and you know, we see him out in the street. He's always dressed to the T in different costume, whatever. If Freddie goes 2 days without being seen, there's a whole Facebook page about where's Freddie, right? We worry about Freddie. Then we have this other couple. There are two couples that you probably seen them. When they go missing, when people don't see them, people are like, where are they, right? Because they are our community. They have now become our community, and when we see them, we can talk to them, we can work with them, right? But then we have this whole set of new people that even our community homeless people are afraid of them, and they're moving away from the bridge to other parts of Brockton because they're afraid of them, because we don't know what drugs they're on, we don't know where they come from, and some of them are becoming violent, right? You see the tagging on the walls, you see them openly using, engaging in different activities, the trash and everything, but they're humans at the end of the day. So there's not much that we can do without violating their rights, right? Because we can't violate their rights. We have to make sure that we're still respecting them. So for the police to come and arrest them on what grounds, you know?
The reason that I brought it up is because, like you said, there used to be, I think, a couple, another 2 people, 3 people, maybe. Now it's like so many new faces, and it's like doubled, and it just got so much. So we need to find
out where they're coming from, why are they here, and what is the plan to return them back to their home. And if they intend to reside and make Brockton their home community, then we need to figure out how do we make them you know, be sustainable citizens. You know, we need to have what we call in the field wraparound service, right? If housing is the issue, then we need to make sure that they're in a housing program that will work with them to make sure that they can sustain that housing. If mental health is the issue, we need to make sure that they're in mental health program, you know, and if substance abuse, so on and so on.
Okay.
But if they're not a residents of our community and they don't intend to stay here, why are we taking the problem of these other communities that don't want them and are just going to dump them here and say, okay, we're dumping them here? Years ago, there was this study, there was this group that used to meet under Carpenter's administration, where if you had a substance abuse problem, you would just go down to the police station and say, I'm here, I want to get treated, I want to go to like rehab. They will clear any warrants that you have and they will send you to get treated. During that time, they would host monthly meetings, and what I found out during those meetings, like the overdose that Brockton gets hit with, those are not Brockton residents. Those are people from Plymouth, all these rich towns that come here because this is becoming the dumping grounds.
They dump their people.
They dump them here because they don't want that problem.
Yeah.
You know, but what are we doing? Why are we not having conversations with the selectmen in those cities or the mayors or whatever they have in those towns and say, hey,
take care of your own people.
They need treatment, Brian. We'll give them treatment. But the same bus that brings them needs to bring them back at the end of the night.
Because it's like 10 to 20 people maybe. I mean, you can identify these people and basically figure out.
And it's not just
where
one bridge. Now we have 3 bridges going on, right?
What I mean.
And it looks bad for Ward 5 because that's the entry point into Ward 5, right? Yes. And the exit point out of Ward 5. So when you're coming through that and you're seeing that, and then you have kids from the Pluff School that walk to the YMCA's and Boys and Girls Club, they're walking right through it, right? You have old people that live in the City Plaza housing development.
You have to change the perspective.
They're afraid to come out, you know? We're building luxury apartments in Brockton, you know, and who wants to live there?
We need to really start getting more educated on the budget. So when Ellie's on city council, she's going to say where do we allocate certain money?
Yes.
And where's that going? So a lot of that, there's the mayor's budget, there's the city council budget. So those are good resources that are public information to really look at. Again, we're looking at the negative, right? The 14.4 million. That's been the huge conversation.
I saw that,
But why are we in a 14.4 million deficit? Do we see where we're investing our money? Because that hasn't been part of the conversation from my understanding. You know, and I'm not trying to take the spotlight from the school committee. 100% were collateral damage. I'm not going to take that away. But where are we really investing our tax dollars in? You know, there's some people that are like, my road hasn't been fixed in like since I moved here in the 90s.
Oh, so street cleaning.
Or street clean. Oh, that's a huge one that people keep asking
where
about.
You're
Trash outside.
Where you're at, there should be routine street cleaning, right? Like especially the downtown area, right? And I have seen it in the budgets. Streets cleaning, and like one day out of randomly I saw one of those trucks go down my street. I'm not on a main street, whatever, and I'm just like, oh, so they do exist, but it's not posted anywhere, so you don't know when it happens. It definitely is not being done downtown, so it's like, where are the money going? Why are we putting money and saying like we're paying for this, but we don't see that service here in the city?
So now that you guys say that, what are let's say you guys get all the power. What are the 3 things that need immediate attention? Right now?
We will never get all the power. I know
that.
Because I think this has been a huge awakening for me, where I'm always in a collective as a school committee, but I could vote no for something. And if you vote no, for example, and there's 7 people in that vote yes, I'm going to be there, right? That's why I learned that's why going on the record when you have a vote is important, so people can say, oh, she voted no because of this. But that's important to go back to the minutes, right? But a lot of people aren't reading the minutes of a meeting, or they're not rewatching a minute. They'll just be like, oh, the vote was yes, the majority. But who voted yes? Some of those people in there, the majority voted yes, but some of them voted no. So when you think about power, it's always going to be looked as collective. Maybe Ellie has a passion about something, she brings it to city council, but if she doesn't have allies, right, that's the part of the game. If you don't have allies that agree with those values, unfortunate, and that's why I say if we don't unite, if we don't educate ourselves, Ellie and I can't make changes without having more people that are allies that want to do this work.
Right? I gotta give
we
it
need
to
the
you guys
community behind us too.
Exactly.
Because like she said, like you can watch the meetings for both of us. You can read the minutes. You can be there present, right? And sometimes people are not there, right? And so if you're not there to have your vote, or if you don't contact, if you can't be there for whatever reason, and you don't contact your school committee or your city council to say, hey, I can't be here, but please read my email too, so that it's on the record, you know, so people know, because we need to know what it is that the community wants, and we need to be able to make those votes and talk on behalf of people. But if everybody's crooked, you know, then there's not much that we can do. Like, I'm going to put it back in the community a little bit. Communities need to be accountable for not participating when they need to participate.
How do people get those informations about where to get in contact with both of you guys?
Yeah, it's all on the website. Our phone numbers are on the website.
The Brockton City?
Yeah, the worst thing about being going into politics is your information's on blast.
You're no
you
longer
Google
private.
me right now, you'll see all my information.
Oh yeah, I saw a bunch
you
of
know,
pictures.
there you go. So like
Awesome.
that. So that stuff. We know how to use Google. Google it. It's on the Brockton website for the city council. It's on the Brockton Public Schools for mine.
Could you
But I'll come
ladies
back to
like
that.
just say a statement? Like each of you can just say a statement for the campaign.
Make sure you add the dates and where
Yes.
people can vote.
Yes. Get out and vote. Obviously, vote for me if you live in Ward 5, but get out and vote. If you don't vote, then you're giving away your voice. So there's plenty of ways to vote. Early election is happening now, so from now until November 3rd, you can vote at the Shaw Center. They're there all day, Saturday, Sunday, so don't wait until the last day. You can do an absentee ballot. I know for a lot of our people, they want to go to Cal Verde and go to other places. And I think people don't know this, right? You can vote outside while you're outside of this country.
Yep,
you just have to request a ballot, and you can request a ballot at home, right? So there's really no excuse, or you can wait until November 7th and go out and vote. But I encourage everybody to go out to vote first, and I will encourage everybody that is able to vote for me for simple, because I am in the community. You will always see me in the community. You will always be able to reach me. And at the end of the day, every vote that I'm going to make is based on what the community has told me and want me to vote on it. So that's my pitch.
Awesome.
Thank
I love
you.
that. Cynthia?
So to add to Ellie, the schedule of early voting, it's on the Brockton City website. Also, November 7th, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So before or after work, please come out and vote. You're going to see us. We'll be holding our signs. If you want to volunteer and hold some signs, please, Instagram, Facebook. That's one way to have visibility. I know you've been a person that you have gone, I don't know who I'm going to vote for school committee. Is that even important? Well, you're going to see our signs, and that might be the reason why you vote for me or for her or for others. My punchline: together we can empower families to advocate for their children. We must ensure that every child receives a high education, and we will make sure that all students are safe, because we can, we will, we must. Please vote for me,
Wow, that's
November
amazing.
7th, 2023. Thank you.
Wow,
Awesome,
thank you,
guys.
thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you, ladies.
Ellie Teixeira, Cynthia Rivas Mendes.
Yep.
Yeah, Cynthia Rivas Mendes. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming here. And basically, we're honored to have you guys on the show. We really learned a lot today. I learned I learned a lot, and I can't wait to cut all this off and make sure that all the people get the knowledge that we got here today. We can't wait to have you guys back. You guys have an open invitation, because I definitely want to get into more things about you guys' background that we didn't really get a lot to get into, because it's just so much information. But I definitely want to get into stuff like mental health, things that we can that are kind of, I guess, trending in this era, so that we can get a little deeper in those conversations. And I think you guys would be a great help for that. So
We would come back anytime.
all the luck in the world. I know you, Ellie. Ever since I've known you, you're always this person calm. You're always, I never see you like tired or whatever. You're always helping out, and I know your background. I know you have all the experience. You have all the experiences of this job, so I wish nothing but luck for you. Cynthia, the way you spoke today, you got my
Amazing.
vote. You definitely got my vote.
Thank you.
Both of you guys.
I think you guys are going to be great, and much luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
everybody,
luck,
for watching
ladies.
us today, and we'll see you next time.